I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the NFP Review Board for Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. Jamie, will you please call the roll?
Hollander.
Here.
Fredrickson.
Here.
Rowe. Mergia. Stemple.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Bassett.
Here.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the NFP Review Board for Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. That must be the delay you're mentioning on the broadcast. All right. Can I get a motion to excuse absent members?
So moved. Support.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Support.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C, the approval of minutes. The approval of the minutes from the NFP Review Board meeting on August 26, 2025. Are there any amendments or comments related to the draft meeting minutes from August 26, 2025 NFP meeting?
So moved. Support.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item D, public comments. If there are any comments from the public in person, please come forward and state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing no one step forward in person, do we have any call-in comments? All right, I'll give it a minute to just make sure. Okay. Okay, yep, we'll give it a minute. Yeah, like about a 90-second delay or so, I guess. So.
Cool features.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the trees are going.
Just found it. Thanks. I saw those.
Oh, there's grass there.
All right, sounds like still no call-in comments, so we'll move on. Item E, board member comments. Are there any comments from the board? I'm hearing none. Item F, new business. For 3050 Oakland Drive, 711. There's an opportunity to provide public comments specific to this agenda item. Are there any public comments in person? Looks like none. Are there any call-in comments? Cool. We'll give it another minute or so. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment. Thank you. All right, sounds like still no call-in comments. Jamie, can you provide background on this item?
Yes, I'm happy to give some information that came out of the staff reviewing of this application, and then I'll also talk a bit about, sorry, I can't see you guys, but please raise your hand or let me know if you have any questions. And I want to talk a little bit about where this project is within its site plan review process, and then we'll have the applicant or representatives from the applicant come in and talk about the project in more detail and answer any of the questions that you may have as well. So to get us started, as was mentioned by the chair, this project is located at 3050 Oakland Drive. It's in the Oakwood neighborhood, if you're familiar with this site. It has been operated as a gas station and convenience store for several decades back, really to the 1960s, and as sort of a use that's been allowed here by right, likely would not be cited here in the future, but is allowed to operate and continue to operate here. It's located right next to Woods Lake and has some proposed improvements that are going to be going into the site, and that's what we're talking about today and what the plan set in front of you is proposing. The site here is zoned commercial node, and you're going to see that this is operated as a Speedway gas station. So the work that they're proposing to do would be to remove and replace some of the fuel dispensers and the underground storage tanks there, and make some improvements to the storm sewer, and then replace the pavement that's associated with this work. As far as where this project is within the site plan approval process, they attended a checklist meeting, so that's just prior to making full application. They attended that meeting on July 30th, and then they turned around a full application for their site plan review just after that meeting, and they're planning on going to that review meeting on October 1st. So, my coworker Nolan, he did the review to this plan and we're bringing it forward to you today, sort of getting prepared for that full site plan review. The recommendation from staff would be to approve this plan with 2 conditions. Of course, it would be conditioned upon that full approval by the site plan review committee that's coming up here at the beginning of October. But then there's also one other item that came up from this review that we wanted you to be aware of. There were, from the first MNFI rare species review, a need to do an on-site review, and that's now in process to get that completed. So pending the results of that review, we would then be able to go ahead as staff and approve this site plan. I wanted to give you a little bit of information about what type of natural features are in and around this site and why it was placed on the overlay district. First of all, it is located near some protected slopes, so it has some steep slopes in the area or just adjacent to it. It's at the top of slopes, actually, and then it slopes down to Woods Lake, as I mentioned, sort of immediately to the west and northwest of this site. And then that slope is all wooded and woodlands immediately adjacent to the site. It is also located within the 5- and 10-year wellhead capture zone, so it's a protected area because it does recharge our drinking water capture zones. So in the staff report, you're going to see, and Nolan outlined all of the different development standards that are associated with those protected features. And Nolan did a review of this plan and how this plan then conforms to those standards. So the site is following our water resource protection standards, following some wetland standards, if needed, but these I think are outside of that wetland delineation area. There's no removal of any trees that are proposed for this project, so that standard is met or not relevant, and there's no proposed woodland impacts as well. The MNFI rare species search, as I mentioned, is underway and is really into the phase 2 that's now required. And you're going to see the plant selection is adhered to that section of the requirements. Nolan did want to point out here that there is a nativar of the honey locust, which is shown on the landscaping plans, and that's the only landscaping that is required. And then lastly, here there's a note about the stormwater management. There is a soil erosion and soil control plan that is required. Stormwater standards have to meet that higher standard in the NFP overlay district, and those plans will be, the SESC plans are provided within site plan review and will have a separate permit that they will follow. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Unless you have any immediate questions for staff, I would invite the applicant to come up and give us an overview of the plan set that you have in front of you. I think that should come on. Yeah, there you go.
My name is Kavel from CESO. We are seeking approval for the Natural Features Protection Review Board. A lot of what you heard is going to be redundant. However, this is going to be the intent is a 7-Eleven or Speedway. In Michigan, they prefer Speedways. It is located at 3050 Oakland Drive in Kalamazoo. As you can see here, denoted in green is the location of the existing gas station. To the north, you can see the Woods Lake, and this is the area that is quite a steep slope down to the lake. Existing site is 0.65 acres. The existing store is 1685 square foot. They're not doing any changes to the store, keeping the existing awning. As she mentioned, we are replacing the 4 dispensers, replacing the underground storage tank, and all associated product piping. Important thing to note here is that currently in this green section here is where the stormwater currently spilled out to. And you can see in the revised plan here, denoted in green, we are relocating that. All of that stormwater is going to be redirected to the stormwater system. We are also showing a orange construction fence here to protect woodlands and what have you during the concrete replacement, which you can see this location here and all around the canopy. We are showing a couple new trees down here to the south. We are adding a dumpster in the, I guess right behind the store, just to the west. That is it. Any questions?
I've got a couple.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the site, and I know you're not going to be going on that steep slope that's immediately behind or to the north. Are you guys going to be leaving that, I'll call it an oversized curb on
Yes.
the north side of the lot?
Yes,
So that
we
won't
are,
be disturbed?
we are leaving that curb. That's not going to be disturbed. And that fence is going to go right behind the curb.
Okay. So you're just going to cut the drain pipe and just leave it at the curb line? I know it's probably just underneath the curb.
I will have to double check. I don't know. Give me a second. I can answer that.
Probably wouldn't show there. I'm sorry, I'm the contractor. It likely would be abandoned, yes. If you would prefer something else, we typically, is that fine if it's abandoned?
I'm more of just curious, I guess, if you were going to be pulling it out, then you'd probably be disturbing the steep slope because it does just stick out the back.
I would suggest that it would do more harm than good to disturb it.
I agree.
We'd probably just leave it there and reroute it.
Okay, great.
Plan for now.
And then when you say, so if you're abandoning that, you'll be directing stormwater just into the grading on the side of the road? Is that the redirection, or did I misunderstand?
It would be tied into the stormwater system.
Oh, directly into that, okay.
Yep. I don't, can you still see my screen?
No.
No.
Is that on her end? Sorry, can't see you. Could you put the HDMI thing back on, please? Gotta love technology. But we are adding in new storm structures and tying into the existing system. Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess my other main big concern, and it appears you've addressed it, though, is just protecting against erosion on that slope. That's the, not removing any trees, not, how are you taking into account, you got, silt fencing, et cetera. I'd be worried about impacts to the sort of the stresses on the trees there and how that might affect the integrity of those slopes. Have you taken
Yeah, we're
any
showing.
impacts on the trees in that sense?
Yeah, the intent is to just go right beyond that. Towards the north, there's a even larger raised curve. It's almost like 2 foot tall, and it kind of slopes down as you go more to the west. The intent is to put the fence directly behind that. The posts are going to be 6 feet in height, spaced no more than 8 feet apart, buried at least 2 feet below grade. Again, we're talking right up against the, I'll call it a retaining wall, enlarged curb. Must have 2 cross-access beams placed approximately 2 to 6 feet above grade. Plastic mesh barrier fence shall be affixed to the front of the posts.
Awesome. Great. Thanks.
Question on the trees being planted, the honey locust. Just curious why honey locust, the species, was chosen for that site?
Bear with me 1 second.
Yep, you're good.
I don't have an answer for you there. I'm not a landscape architect.
I believe, I was on that call, and I believe that's what the city's.
Could you step up to the mic just so everybody can hear you? Thank you.
Absolutely. I was a part of that original call, and I believe that's what the city recommended would be used there.
Okay. Yeah, it makes it a little tricky because this board, we're supposed to kind of require native species. Honey locust is non-native. I was just kind of curious if there was like any functional reason why that species was used over some other native alternatives.
I don't believe so. Is there a species that you guys would recommend?
Well, honey locust is a native species.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Barely.
This is a native species, but in this case, a native R would represent a cultivated variety of that native species, lacking the gnarly thorns that the wild type would have, so.
Okay, that's my bad. I was thinking it was non-native, but I think you're in the clear then.
Thank you.
I have more comments regarding the tree. I'm not against the species necessarily. I'm just thinking about the site location where the trees are going. I'm familiar with that spot.
Yes.
So if you take into account the mature size of that tree, and then I know that there's numerous guy wires from telephone poles nearby, there's overhead lines going to, I think, maybe both of the buildings, and just thinking about the future conflict that that tree and infrastructure may pose, and having, the pruning requirements, you may be better off trying to find something that is also a native species, but a columnar version, so a much narrower growth form that grows taller, but maybe not as wide. And there's also parking space right next to it, so sidewalk. So there's a lot of things nearby that when you got a tree that's potential 30 feet wide, it just, down the road, 10, 15 years down the road, could be problematic for pruning.
Just to jump off that, it looks like you have a gas line really close as well. That was what I was looking at as well. So not exactly your purview, but just something to be aware of.
Understood. We can look at that. I see your concern.
I'd say it's more of a recommendation than it is, a stop here on that. Since we're on trees and you got the arborist here, I'm going to keep talking about trees. I was just curious if you guys thought about at all doing any, pruning along the north line. I know that site, there's a lot of overhanging stuff, and I see the dumpster location there, and it seems like a pretty tricky spot given a pretty large weeping mulberry that hangs low.
That one was probably going to be pruned up a little bit in order to accommodate the dumpster enclosure is what we were
Okay,
thinking.
and then also just thinking, working on large projects before, just big equipment that's in there, you got these overhanging, branches and stuff from adjacent trees that, get ahead of it, prune it rather than, potentially getting damaged by an excavator or something like that. Just,
Absolutely.
putting that out there.
Yep.
Is this site currently a facility? Have there been leaking underground storage tanks in the past?
There's no, let's see, if our,
I believe there was issues with these tanks, which is why they're being replaced.
Okay.
From what I'm being told, which is why all the product piping is completely being redone.
Yeah, there's been a limited availability of fuel for consumers there for a while, so that's probably the explanation for that. Yeah.
All right, are there any more questions or discussion from board members? I'll give it another minute.
I want to chime in here and keep talking about trees. Just, my experience in the past, projects like this, it's planting trees, love it, great detail on the planting. I'm always curious about the follow-up. Is there a plan for follow-up? You're installing guy wires to hold a new tree up, which is great. Guy wires aren't my first choice, but it's an option. I prefer stakes, vertical stakes, but guy wires are fine. But is there a plan to come back in 2 to 3 years to remove those, or do they get left on and then the tree grows, the wires start digging into the tree? So, right, in my eyes, the main goal here is we're going to plant a tree as best we can so that it lives for 50-plus years, not to plant a tree and check a box. So I always like to ask the follow-up questions, who's going to be looking out for this tree in 2 years when the project's over?
We can definitely make a note in those notes for a course of action for that, so, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the NFP site plan for 3050 Oakland Drive, conditioned upon the scheduling and completion of the rare species review, on-site inspection, and full site plan approval. Can I get a motion, or can I get support?
Support.
Second.
This will need a roll call vote. Jamie, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Hollander.
Yes.
Frederickson.
Yes.
Stemple.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Bassett.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item G, unfinished business, NFP board work session. There is an opportunity to provide public comments specific to this agenda item. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing no one step forward, are there any phone call-in comments? We'll give it a minute for people to call in. Thank you. All right, sounds like no call-in comments. Jamie, do you want to fill us in on this item?
Yeah, Nolan just wanted to pass along that there is leaf pickup here at the city starting in November through December, and there's just a quick reference to the leaf pickup here. You can see that in your view from the curb. We always like to remind our residents about best practices for putting leaves into your curb lawn, keeping those out of the storm sewers and those catchments whenever possible. So there's more information on the City of Kalamazoo's website.
Cool, thank you. Looks like there are no staff reports or updates. Is that still true? All right. Communications and announcements. Are there any communications or announcements from staff or board members? I'll just say one, I guess. I think we're still looking for board members, as we have been for a few months now. So I guess keep sharing the word on that for people to apply. Anything else? All right. Meeting adjourned.